As I mentioned in the previous presentations on 10-hour shifts, I'm going to be covering the following issues. Basic issues around 10-hour shifts, single shifts covering Monday through Friday, single shifts covering Monday through Saturday, and then Monday through Sunday. Then I'll have a presentation on two-shift operations, and then I'll talk about covering 24/7 with 10s. Now we've already covered these first two in presentations number 1 and 2. So today I'm going to combine these next two. I'm going to talk about how to cover 6 days a week and 7 days a week using 10-hour shifts. Before we get into the schedule patterns, I would just like to stress a couple of points that were made in the earlier presentations with regards to 10s. First of all, people love 10-hour shifts, so make sure they're going to work before you think about implementing them. If you implement them and they don't work, people are going to really resist you trying to take them away. 10-hour shifts are going to change the shape of your workforce, so make sure you can change the shape of your workload to match. For example, they're going to be there more hours every day, so can you make your workload last more hours every day? They might be there fewer days during the week, so can you make your workload compress so that it occurs over the days that people are there? Cross-training issues are going to need to be considered. It depends on the type of pattern, rotating days off, or if they rotate as a team, or if there's fixed shifts. There's a number of contributors to this, but cross-training is definitely a consideration. And finally, 10-hour shifts cause fewer people to show up every day. So if you're used to having 5 people show up for 8 hours Monday through Friday, if you go to 10s, you're going to only have 4 people show up, but when they show up, they'll be there for 10 hours. A quick note about staffing. Let's suppose that you want 4 people to show up on a 10-hour schedule and you want them to average 40 hours of work every week. How many people will you need? The answer depends on how many days you want to cover. This is a very important point. People frequently think that if you change a schedule pattern, maybe from short shifts to long shifts or long shifts back to short shifts, if you somehow change the pattern, people will magically be worth more than 40 hours a week, but you only have to pay them 40 hours a week. And that's just not the case. So I want to make sure that we take a look at how many people it's actually going to take to staff these schedules. And in this example, I'm acting like I want 4 people to show up. So you could use this number with 400 or 4,000 people, but I'm going to keep it with 4 just to keep it simple. So if you want 4 people to show up on a 10-hour schedule and you want them to average 40 hours of work every day or every week, to cover 5 days a week with 10-hour shifts, you're going to need this many people. You're going to need 5 people. And of those 5, 4 of them will show up every day. To cover 6 days a week with 10-hour shifts, you're going to need 6 people. And to cover 7 days a week with 10-hour shifts, you're going to need 7 people. So in every case, as you cover more and more hours in the week, more and more days in the week, if you want 4 people to show up for 5 days, it's going to take a certain number. For 6 days, it'll take a larger number, and for 7 days, it will take even a larger number. All right, let's take a look at our first 6-day schedule, and I'm going to call this covering 6 days with everyone spread out. I'm going to actually show you 2 very similar schedules. I'm going to call them 1A and 1B. 1A looks like this. You can see across the top I have Monday through Sunday, and down on the left-hand side I've got the names of the 6 people we have. And if we take a look at how the coverage is provided, if we take a look at Monday, Amy, Fred, Sean, and Jay show up. Sandy and Clem stay home. So of the 6 people, 4 showed up and 2 stay home. And you can go across the days of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way through to Saturday, and see that every day 4 are scheduled to show up and 2 are scheduled to stay home. Everyone's off on Sunday because this is only a 6-day schedule. And this is really, the schedule 1A is really 6 schedules in one. So Amy has her schedule. That week that Amy is in is always her schedule. So Amy is always going to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And Amy's always going to be off on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The same goes, for example, Clem on the bottom. Clem is off on Monday. He works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then he's off on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So if we take a look at those 2, just Amy and Clem, Amy has every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Clem has every Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. Now, if you took a look at these 6 people, who do you think are the most senior? If you guessed Amy and Clem, you're probably right. This is a schedule that we see in places where seniority counts. And so Amy's going to say, I've been here the longest, I want every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, and that's what she gets. So what happens to everyone else? Well, you end up with someone like Fred. Let's say that Fred just got hired last week, so he's the new guy. And let's take a look at his schedule. Fred works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He's off on Thursday and Friday. Then he comes back to work on Saturday, and then he takes Sunday off. So Fred's got 3 days off, just like Amy had 3 days, but his days are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. The Saturday is called a split work day, so he's got some days off, comes to work for a single day, and then has another day off. This is not a very desirable feature. If you look closely, Jay has the exact same feature. So this schedule basically works well. It gives you the coverage. It spreads everyone across the 6 days of the week. It uses 10-hour shifts. 6 people working 40 hours a week make 4 people show up. But we've got some seniority issues here, and not everybody's schedule is ideal. Now let's take a look at Schedule 1B. 1B is identical to 1A except instead of names down the left-hand side, I put numbers. What I'm saying here is that whatever week you're in now, the next week you drop down. So if you start off in week 1, next week you're in week 2, and next week you're in week 3, etc. If you finished week 1, you're going up to, or week 6, you go up to week 1. It provides the exact same coverage, uses the exact same number of people, but now there's no seniority issue. Everybody gets to share in the good and the bad features of this schedule. A couple of notes here. You need a multiple of 6 people to make 4 show up. So if we needed 12 people to show up, I need to use 18 people. If I needed 16 people to show up, I need 24 people. If I need 17 to show up, well, 17 is not a multiple of 4, so I can't make this schedule work. If I need 5 people to show up, I can't make this schedule work. So the number of people I need to show up has to be a multiple of 4, and the number of people I need to use to make that many people show up has to be a multiple of 6. So this is what I would call a very fragile schedule. You may say, hey, I need exactly 8 people to show up, so I'm going to use 12 people to make 8 show up. And then next year you upgraded your system, so instead of 8 you only need 7 people, and because of that the schedule doesn't work anymore. So it's very fragile. This schedule also has some cross-training issues because although we have 6 people, only 4 are going to show up, and those 4 people have to have all the skills that the 6 would ordinarily bring to the table. So they have to have quite a bit of cross-training. And this has the split days off, which is only really an issue up on pattern number 1. Both schedules have the split day off, but it's not as noticeable when everyone rotates through all 6 weeks. Okay, let's take a look at another way to cover 6 days. This time I'm going to use 3 half crews. I'm going to use the same 6 people I had before, but I'm going to pair them up with each other so I have 3 crews or 3 half crews of 2 people each. The 2 schedules I'm going to show are very similar, so I'm going to call them 2A and 2B. If we start with schedule 2A, we have across the top Monday through Sunday, and down the side you'll see my 3 half crews, Amy, Fred, Sean and Jay, Sandy and Clem. And let's take a look at how it provides the coverage. On Monday, Amy and Fred show up and Sandy and Clem show up. Those 2 half crews give me a full crew. Remember, I'm trying to have 4 people show up. We go out, let's take a look at Thursday. I have Amy and Fred showing up and Sean and Jay showing up. That gives me my 4 people. So as you go across Monday through Saturday, you'll see every day 2 of these groups show up to make 4 people show up overall. Now Amy and Fred have every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, and they always have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Sean and Jay are off on Monday, Tuesday, and Sunday. So every Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, Sean and Jay are off. So Amy and Fred have a great schedule. They're 3-day weekend every week. Sean and Jay, they don't have a 3-day weekend, but they have a half a weekend off, and they have 3 days off in a row. Sandy and Clem probably have the worst of the 3 patterns. They're off on Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So they're going to work a couple, off a couple, work a couple, then take Sunday off. Now just like the previous slide's example of 6-day schedules, I'm using 6 people working 40 hours a week to make 4 people show up. Let's take a look at 2B. 2B is the same concept as 1B was, and that is instead of having all of these people have a fixed week where they're always having the same days of work and the same days off, they're all going to take turns working the different weeks. So whoever's in week 1 goes to week 2, whoever's in week 2 goes to 3, and whoever's in week 3 goes to 4. For example, if Sean and Jay are in week 1, next week Sean and Jay will be in week 2, and next week Sean and Jay will be in week 3. A couple of notes about this. This needs a multiple of 3 people to show up, to be assigned, so that you'll have a multiple of 2 people to show up. So you can say I need 2 people, 4 people, 6 people, 8 people. As long as you need an even number of people to show up, we can make this schedule work. On the previous patterns, the 6-week cycles, you needed to have a multiple of 4. So you couldn't handle 2 people, but you could handle 4. You couldn't handle 6 people, but you could handle 8. So this one gives you a lot more flexibility in that all you need is to require an even number of people to show up. And for every 2 you need to show up, you need to have 3. So if you need 4 people to show up, you need to have 6, just like on the previous schedule. There's fewer cross-training issues here because they're not different groupings of how many different combinations you can have of 4 people out of 6 showing up. Now we have how many combinations of 2 crews out of 3 showing up, which just mathematically it's a simpler formula. And there is a nice part about 2B. If we take a look at 2B, it has a 5-day weekend in it. So if I'm on 2B and I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of week 1, then I'm off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I go down to week 2, and I'm also off on Monday and Tuesday. So that gives me a 5-day weekend, and that happens once every 3 weeks. So that's a pretty attractive feature for this particular schedule. So of all the ways of using 10-hour shifts to cover 6 days, 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B, 2B is probably the most liked by the shift workers, and it's as 2B and 2A are equally flexible, especially when you compare them to 1A and 1B. So if I was to go to a site and they say, which of these 4 should I pick? I'd say, look, you should always ask the workforce, but if you just want to take a stab at it, 2B is the way to go. Okay, we're going to take a look at covering 7 days with 10-hour shifts, but briefly, I want to talk about staffing. To cover 5 days with 10-hour shifts, we needed 5 people to make 4 show up. On 6 days, we needed 6 people to make 4 show up. So on 7 days, we need 7 people to make 4 show up. These schedules, once again, are very similar, so I'm going to call them 3A and 3B. Start with 3A. Across the top, we've got Monday through Sunday, and down the side, we've got our 7 people. I've added Thelma to our crew there. And what we have really here is 7 unique schedules. Everyone has their own week in the cycle, and they repeat that week over and over again. And if we come out to Monday, I've got Amy showing up, Sandy showing up, Clem showing up, and Thelma showing up. That gives me 4 people on Monday. Let's take a look at, say, Friday. I've got Fred, Sean, Jay, and Sandy showing up. So every day of the week, you'll see that 4 people show up out of the 7, and 3 people are home out of the 7. And if you go across everyone's week, you'll see that they all have 3 days of work, or 4 days of work, and they all have 3 days off. So they're averaging 40 hours of work a week. And as you might expect, some of these shifts or patterns are a little bit better than other patterns. For example, Amy has every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, where Sandy has every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off. So they're not all created equal, and so we're going to run into some seniority issues with this one, unless, of course, we rotate the weeks off, which is what 3B is going to do. So instead of having 7 people, I just put weeks 1 through 7, and whatever week you're in, next week you're going to be in the next following week in the cycle. So if you're in week 3 now, next week you're going to be in week 4, and the next week you'll be in week 5, etc. And once again, this is going to make 4 people show up. So if we go through this pattern, let's start in week 1. We would work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then we're going to be off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Rotate down. We're also off on Monday, so that's a 4-day weekend. So I'm in week 2 now. I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I'm going to be off Saturday, Sunday. Rotate down. I'm off Monday and Tuesday. That's another 4-day weekend. So I'm in week 3 now, where I work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then I'm off Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of week 4. Then I come to work on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Rotate down to week 5. I also work Monday. Now this is interesting. You'll notice that I worked 5 days in a row. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of week 4. Then Monday of week 5. That's a new pay week. So I worked those first 4 days fell in one pay week. The next day, the 5th day in a row that I worked, actually falls in the next pay week. This is very important to do it this way, because if all 5 shifts fall in the same pay week, then we have 10 hours of overtime because they worked 50 hours. So you have to make sure that you structure this so that you don't end up with more than 40 hours in any given week. So now we're on week 5. I'm going to take off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I'm going to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, rotate down to week 6 and work Monday and Tuesday. Then I'm going to have Wednesday, on week 6, I'm going to be off on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And in week 7, I'm off on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I'll repeat the cycle again. So that's our 7-day schedule.